Ladies and gentlemen, in the last few days, the Enforcement Directorate seems to be cracking down on corruption in full force, and caught in its crosshair are 4 political parties in the country. Let's begin with the man of the moment, Sanjay Raut. He was arrested late last night in Mumbai in the 1,034 crore Patra Chaul redevelopment scam. He was remanded to ED custody for the next 3 days till 4th of August after the agency contested that Raut and his family directly benefited from money that was earned by defrauding the Maharashtra Housing Development Authority. 672 families were robbed of a dream of a home because of people like Raut, alleged the Enforcement Directorate. While the court did not buy the ED's argument completely that Sanjay Raut did not cooperate in the probe, Sanjay Raut, for his part, blamed the entire investigation on the charge that the government in the state was now taking action against him to settle political scores. A sentiment that was echoed by the man he's been loyal to through thick and thin. Uddhav Thackeray met Raut's family this morning and minutes later held a news conference where he could not stop heaping praises on Sanjay Raut. A dear friend, a true Shiv Sena, a loyal soldier. All those adjectives used to describe a man facing corruption charges. And not just that, he said, virtually picking out the Pushpa dialogue, कि वो झुकेगा नहीं. Listen.
नहीं, मुझे संजय राउत पर अभिमान है और बाला साहब का असली सैनिक सिर्फ वो पिक्चर देखने के लिए ठीक है, पुष्पा झुकेगा नहीं, लेकिन ये झुका नहीं. जो झुकने वाले थे वो हमाम में चले गए और झुकने वाला कभी शिवसैनिक नहीं हो सकता. जो भी लोग कह रहे थे कि हम बाला साहब की जो भी हमारे पास एक शिक्षा थी, शिक्षा म्हणजे मराठीतली नाही, शिकवण ज्याला म्हणतो, उसके ऊपर हम हमारा आगे की दिशा तय कर रहे हैं, तो ये बाला साहब ने दिखाई नहीं, दिशा नहीं है. जब सेकंड वर्ल्ड वॉर चल रहा था तो हिटलर एक समय ऐसे आया था कि अब उस वक्त लग रहा था कि शायद हिटलर जीत जाएगा, पूरी दुनिया को अपने कब्जे में ले लेगा. तो उस वक्त डेविड लो मतलब हिटलर बॉम्ब डालता था और डेविड लो एक कार्टून निकालता था, और वो कार्टून का जो एक परिणाम हुआ करता था वो बॉम्ब से भी ज़्यादा होता था. और ऐसे कहा जाता है कि हिटलर ने उस वक्त अपने सारे लोगों को कहा था कि ये व्यक्ति है कौन, है कहाँ, इसे लेके आओ, जिंदा या मुर्दा जैसे है उसे लेके आओ. तो यही होती है जो तानाशाही की बात होती है. जब सारे लोग अपने गुलाम होते हैं तो कुछ दिन के लिए जब तक उनका उपयोग आपके लिए होता है तब तक वो गुलाम अच्छे लगते हैं. बाद में गुलाम जब उनका उपयोग नहीं रहता है वो निकलते हैं.
Raut's arrest is the latest in a series of investigations across the country by the Enforcement Directorate. In West Bengal, sacked TMC Minister Partha Chatterjee has been in custody for sitting on mountains of cash and gold that would perhaps put some jewelers to shame. The sacked minister today denied having any link with the huge cash pile recovered from his associate's residence. He repeated, "It's not mine," vehemently on camera. In Delhi, Aam Aadmi Party's Minister Satyendra Jain was handed a setback by the Delhi High Court last week when they said the state-run LNJP hospital's report would not be considered as a certificate of Jain's medical status. And in Jharkhand, 3 Congress MLAs are behind bars after they were caught with 49 lakh rupees in cash in a car in West Bengal. And what's interesting is at the nub of it all, the BJP finds itself accused of running its political opponents down via these central agencies. The same allegation repeated, no matter the case, no matter who was accused, no matter which state it was, and what the political affiliation of the people under investigation. And as far as Sanjay Raut is concerned, ladies and gentlemen, he's so sure this is a witch hunt that his body language exudes it. A fist bump, a sign of victory, no creases on his forehead, no beads of sweat, and the swirling of saffron scarf in the air to assert his Hindutva credentials. So the legitimate question that we're asking on the NewsHour tonight, is this bravado a mask for graft taint? That's the question, and that's the debate. Raut Chaul Gate. That's the hashtag and the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight, Reena Gupta of the Aam Aadmi Party, Kishore Tiwari, leader of the Shiv Sena. Also joining me tonight, Sanjay Jha of suspended Congress leader. I love to call him that. Also joining us tonight is Dr. Shantanu Sen, representing the Trinamool Congress. Suhel Seth, marketing guru. But my first question goes to Member of Parliament and spokesperson of the BJP, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi. Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, the charge against you is that you are Hitler. You are running a dictatorship. That's what Uddhav Thackeray has said. And Rahul Gandhi, just a short while ago, on the picture of Sanjay Raut with his saffron scarf, has tweeted and said, "This is ahankar." और आप सबको चुप कराना चाहते हैं. Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, these are very grave charges that agencies are tools being used in the dictatorship being run by the BJP.
In this context, I would just like to put forth certain facts. These days, the allegations are on the opposition side. But I want to remind, when when they were in the power, what happened? All the allegations were on them, whether it was Colgate, CWG, 2G or anything. Then at that time, even they were under the circle of under the radar of agencies. Now they are still under the radar of agencies. Rahul Gandhi ji is tweeting, but on the National Herald case was started in when? In October 2013, when they were in power. And it was registered where? Not by any government agency, it was by the court. And they have to take a bail on the instruction of what? From the Delhi court, not by the government agencies. So fact of the matter is, if ED would not have recovered anything in the last 5-6 years, then they could have put an allegation. But 67,000 crores have been recovered. Recently, what happened in West Bengal, now it has become no option. It has become incumbent on their part to accept anything. So in my view, ये और कुछ नहीं है, ये भ्रष्टाचार में जो सब लोग सम्मिलित हैं, वो मिले सुर मेरा तुम्हारा करके सब एक स्वर में आकर केवल एजेंसीज को दबाव में लेने और अपनी अपनी राजनीतिक रोटी सेकने के अलावा और कुछ करने में इंटरेस्टेड नहीं है. That's why I have put forth the fact that whether they are in power or they are in opposition, always they are indebted, they are up to the neck in corruption. And if they are having anything substantive against them, I want to remind, there were several cases of so-called Hindu terror and Roids and others against us. And during their regime, we came out clearly because all were the motivated cases. Here the corruption charges with facts, figures, transactions and others. So they are left with no other option to play these type of tricks in the politics.
Well, let me take that question to Mr. Kishore Tiwari. Mr. Kishore Tiwari, I haven't said this. These are printed documents. These are the affidavits from Rajya Sabha. 2010, Mr. Sanjay Raut had declared his assets and income to the tune of 1.5 crore rupees. In 2022, in just 12 years, it has gone up to about 18.5 crore rupees. From 1.5 crore rupees to 18.5 crore rupees. Now that is the growth in his assets. In the days when we're talking about 50 crore rupees cash recovered in certain houses, this seems like a very small sum, but 18 times increase in his returns as per his own affidavit. That apart, the remand copy, what has been put forward in the courts today, there is not just transactions between Mr. Sanjay Raut and Praveen Raut, the builder who's been arrested, who was a director in the company of the Vadhavans, which was, the purchaser of this Patra Chaul complex. There is financial transaction between these two individuals, and this builder is in jail. And then this also shows up in the affidavit where the loan, unsecured loan, shows up. So relationship is confirmed. Besides that, there are two complaints. One complaint which we played out over the weekend of Swapna Patkar, where she has complained to the police and the Enforcement Directorate about abuse gate by Mr. Sanjay Raut. And then there is a second complaint that I'm holding in my hand by another so-called person of interest who's being investigated by the Supreme Court, by the Enforcement Directorate. And here again there is a threat, and there is a statement made where it says that members close to Mr. Sunil Raut, Mr. Sanjay Raut, have given threats to this individual. I want to ask you, this is not dictatorship. Threatening witnesses, threatening people who are under investigation, that is not dictatorship. Ukhad diya, that is not dictatorship. But ED asking questions is dictatorship. किशोर तिवारी जी, क्या ये प्रमाण सच है?
Yeah, you were asking me for last 5 minutes. You should allow me to speak for 1 minute.
Regarding affidavit and the unsecured loan, I think Sanjay Raut has already filed his return reply to the ED, and I am surprised that the income tax authorities were sleeping for last decade to have certain jump. I think there must be a valuation of the property must have increased, or what is the source of that Sanjay Raut will tell to you, because now he is in ED custody, and BJP will not take any chance of detaining him. And now you have shown me the complaints also. So now they have a government in Maharashtra also, and police are quickly registering the complaints. So let us have that, should be unearth the truth. But Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi ji, who were associating with you for last 28 years. But from last 2.5 years, our 80% of the people which left us and joined your camp, including that, there were allegations from your side that we are very much corrupt. We are a Vasuli gang and all these things. So I am surprised how you realized in this last 2.5 years, and why there is a selective action, because 80% who were corrupt and allegations and official complaints were lodged by lodged to ED by your Kirit Somaiya. So when are you taking action of this cleaning operation? Now Sanjay Raut is in custody, and Sanjay Raut, if he is a corrupt man, he will be punished. So no question of Sanjay Raut. Now what about the people who have left us and joined BJP camp? They are more corrupt, and there are thousands of crore cases were there. You made them minister, you made them central minister also. So I want to know the quality of the certification of character from you, and when you will arrest them and when we will put them behind the bar.
Fair question. Sudhanshu ji, would you want to answer? Pratap Sarnaik, Yamini Jadhav and Bhavna Gauli have been facing ED cases, and these are now in the Shinde camp of the Shiv Sena, which are your alliance partners. I want to ask you, any action against them expected?
First thing, I want to correct Mr. Kishore Tiwari. They have not joined BJP. They are not in the BJP's camp. They are well within the Shiv Sena. Now it is the fight within Shiv Sena, who is going to be the real Shiv Sena. So that is strictly your personal matter. BJP has nothing to do with that. And now coming to your allegation of the so-called Vasuli gang, sir, this was not an allegation put up by us. It was an allegation put up by your Commissioner of Police to your Home Minister. And unfortunately, your government was not having audacity. Either your Home Minister was correct or your Police Commissioner was correct. So you should have taken at least action on any one of them. But unfortunately, for few days, you were totally crippled. Because आपको तो डर लग रहा था ना कि अगर वो उसके दिल में तो बात डाइवर्टिंग नहीं. You have brought the issue of वसूली gang, and the वसूली gang allegation was done by none other than the police commissioner of your own government. और आप इसलिए हिम्मत नहीं कर पाए क्योंकि आपको पता होगा कि उनके दिल में इतने राज दबे हुए थे. अगर हिम्मत करते तो शायद दोनों ही पूरी तरीके से सामने आ जाते. So as far as this is concerned, this is the only example in the entire India's political history.
Reena Gupta raising her hand. Reena Gupta ji.
One sentence.
Okay. All right, Sudhanshu ji.
But just one sentence. This is the only example in the democratic history of India in which the allegation of corruption was raised on the Home Minister by the police commissioner. You cannot sort any example and then you are putting blame on us. This is ridiculous.
By the blessing of central agency.
सब कुछ ही सेंट्रल एजेंसी के साथ हो रहा था. तो किशोर तिवारी जी, आपकी सरकार 2.5 साल कैसे चल रही थी?
यही दररोज रेड, दररोज करप्शन के चार्जेस, दररोज पार्टी को फोड़ना. अरे बहुत तकलीफ में दिन गए. कोरोना में भी ये हमको छोड़ नहीं रहे थे. हमारे उद्योग जी बीमार थे तब भी नहीं छोड़ रहे थे. पाप है इनके.
I want to get in Reena Gupta ji. Reena Gupta ji, when Sanjay Raut in Samna wrote ukhad diya, nobody saw any ahankar or any arrogance in that action. But today when the ED or other agencies are taking action, it seems like there's dictatorship and there's arrogance that is involved in this action. And may I bring to your notice that whatever is happening under the aegis of the court now. The matter is in court. Sanjay Raut has been arrested. Courts are looking at the matter, and it's not just a question of putting something by a central agency. It has to be ratified by the courts, and in the courts it's not just about the 672 tenants of the Patra Chaul area who are still awaiting their homes. It's also an allegation of land being purchased, 8 plots of land being purchased in Alibag by paying cash. And there is the witness statement or the person of interest who has, I don't know, but it is a claim that is being made that, information has been given that even the Patra Chaul homes were paid for, pittance paid, 10% paid in check amount and the rest paid in cash. Shouldn't agencies inquire and investigate these matters? And let's come to the issue of Mr. Satyendra Jain. It is the court which has said that do not believe LNJP hospital certification on the health of Mr. Jain. It's a startling observation by a court. Why just blame agencies? I think you are on...
that anybody who's corrupt should be put behind bars. No matter which political party they are from, if they are corrupt, they should be put behind bars. But why is it, Navika, that we only see leaders of the opposition party who have cases of ED against them? Since the time Mr. Modi has come to power, there have been 5,400 cases by ED, only 23 conviction cases. No, there is a very wrong idea being floated around that itna paisa sarkar ne vasool liya, ye corrupt logon ka paisa vasool liya. This is provisional attachment. So unless these cases are proved in the court of law, which we have seen that only 23 cases have been proved in the court of law, this money actually goes back to the person that was accused. And as soon as, I can name hundreds of examples, as soon as these leaders join the Bharatiya Janata Party, all the cases against them are dropped, be it Mukul Roy, be it Hemanta Vishwa Sharma. And what about all the cases against the BJP leaders, be it the Yapam scam, where 30 witnesses actually died, be it the cases against Mr. Yedurappa, be it the cases against Mr. Nishank Pokhriyal. So there is like a long laundry list of BJP leaders who have been involved in scams. There is a long list of friends of BJP, whether it's Nirav Modi, Mehul Choksey, Adani ji, on whose court a couple of months ago, 26,000 crore worth of drugs were found. Why is it that the ED is not used in any of these cases? Now, coming to Mr. Satyendra Jain, this is an 8-year-old case. Now, for 8 years, you've not been able to file a charge sheet. And last week, when they filed the charge sheet, and Navika, I'm quoting, the court said आपको चार्जशीट फाइल करनी नहीं आती क्या? पहली बार चार्जशीट फाइल कर रहे हैं, फोटोकॉपी लेके आ गए, ढंग से चार्जशीट फाइल करिए. So these are
but then the same court took cognizance of the charge sheet and admitted it. So
and also in the case of Mr. Raut also, Navika, the FIR was filed in 2018. तब तो ये सारे दोस्त थे, तब तो कोई अरेस्ट नहीं हुआ. अब शिवसेना और भारतीय जनता पार्टी अलग अलग हो गए तो मिस्टर संजय राउत को अरेस्ट कर दिया. The point that I'm trying to make is that the same yardstick should be used for everybody. If you have these raids, then you prove the charges. Don't let the cases drag on forever. Don't try to bring down, governments in opposition states, because that is all you're doing. You're trying to use ED to bring down MLAs from the opposition states.
Let me get in Suhel Seth. Suhel Seth, is this dictatorship? Is this selective action? Is it only the opposition that is being targeted for political vendetta? Mountains of cash notwithstanding?
So let me take, now you have to give me some time, because I'm non-political. Everyone here has a vested interest. Sanjay has suspended animation. So let me lay down the grounds. Kishore Tiwari is absolutely right. When they're with him, they're corrupt. When they're with another party, they're not corrupt. Fair. But you admit that they're corrupt? Should there be no action against corruption? Reena Gupta very validly said that if someone is corrupt, hang him. I'm saying don't hang him, shoot him. I'll tell you why. Sanjay Raut has played with people's livelihoods, he's played with their dignity of life, and most importantly, he's played with their housing. The slum rehabilitation scheme in Maharashtra is a racket that has been run for years. MADA knew in 2008 that Sanjay Raut and his people were running this goddamn racket. In 2017, they filed the charge sheet. That's when they took him to court. So MADA should also be hauled up. Tiwari ji, hammam mein sab nange hote hain. But that doesn't mean the hammam and the marsh needs not to be cleaned. I'm delighted that Modi is a dictator. India needs a dictator to clean up everyone. And if in the process he also cleans up his own party, it'll be a great tribute. I have a lot of time for Sudhanshu, but only in one area he's wrong. You never go to bed with someone who's corrupt if you think you're clean. So don't say because he belongs to Shinde and doesn't belong to us, and he's not a BJP member, we have no responsibility. You have a responsibility. I will say this today publicly, Navika. Post-independent India, this is India's cleanest union cabinet. Not one person is making money. Are other people making money? I don't know, and I don't care. Having said that, all the people on this panel, whether it's Kishore, whether it's Sudhanshu, whether it's Reena, understand that political corruption must be stemmed, must be stomped. Shantanu is from Bengal. I'm from Bengal. You know something? The communists were lazy, were stupid. They were personally not corrupt. Buddhadev lived and died in penury. I mean, I don't know if he's dead, but lived in penury. Pramod Dasgupta lived and died in penury. Mamta Banerjee, who I've known because I'm from Calcutta, from Bengal, I don't think she's personally corrupt. But did she not know about Partha Chatterjee? Everyone did. Now, when Partha Chatterjee's been caught out, you say that he doesn't belong to us, then you wash your hands off. This is ridiculous. I'm delighted that the Enforcement Directorate is hauling all these rascals up as they should. Why should you say Enforcement Directorate?
Unparliamentary language.
1 minute.
Unparliamentary language.
No,
will not go on record.
English.
I mean,
rascals is in the Webster Dictionary and in the Oxford English Dictionary. Don't count me on English. I'm the Shashi Tharoor of television. So now let me tell you another thing, which is a very important thing to say. Navika, this country has seen a nexus of two types. A nexus between politicians and real estate owners, which Tiwari ji will admit to. And the second is, you scratch my back and I scratch yours. Modi doesn't want to scratch anyone's back, which is why people are in trouble. There is no family, he's not bothered, you can do what you want. Finally, everyone has been abusing the Enforcement Directorate. Everyone has been saying the Enforcement Directorate is, but the Enforcement Directorate is chosen by a panel of 3 people. One is the leader of the opposition, one is the Prime Minister of India, and the third is the Chief Justice of India. Also, if you are unhappy with the Enforcement Directorate, if you think the Enforcement Directorate is corrupt or is doing something illegal, take them to the courts. You won't take them to courts?
No, they took them.
You tell me.
They
one minute, Navika. You tell
they
me.
took the ED to court, Suhel. 242 petitions, including Congress netas like Mr. Karti Chidambaram.
I'm asking you only one thing, and I asked this of Reena, I asked this of Kishore, of Sudhanshu and Shantanu. If you want to restore faith in the common man in this country, of his political leadership, there are only two ways. One is when leadership behaves by example, and two, when leadership that it goes rogue is punished. Do you not want this punishment? Do you want to abuse the ED and say, oh, this is political targeting, therefore no action must be taken? Bhai, the question that you need to worry about is Sanjay Raut corrupt? If he's corrupt, he needs to go to jail. It doesn't matter whether ED picks him up or the goddamn fire brigade or the goddamn Suhel Seth. How does it matter? The point, Kishore, is it's a valid point. If the person is corrupt and he gets picked up, should you be worried about who's picking him up, or should you be worried about how did we have him in our party? Today, Mamata Banerjee should introspect, as she will, I'm sure, as she will, that how did we sit and allow a Partha Chatterjee to do what he did under our eagle eye? You know, Kishore, you come from a lineage of the Shiv Sena. Bala Saab's lineage is well documented, well regarded, well respected. You tell me, has Sanjay Raut not damaged the Shiv Sena? Has he not damaged the hopes, the aspirations, the beliefs of every Shiv Sainik? Has he not hurt those people? You can't be brazen when you're corrupt. You be brazen when you're Navika Kumar. You don't be brazen when you're corrupt. When you have वो दाढ़ी में तिनके की बात होती है. अरे आपने इतना पैसा कमाया है. ये पैसा इन्फोर्समेंट डायरेक्टरेट को मिला है. उसके बाद आपको ये चिंता नहीं कि उस आदमी ने पैसा गलती से बनाया है. आपको ये चिंता है कि मोदी ने क्यों हमारे पीछे इन्फोर्समेंट डायरेक्टरेट भेजी. तो मोदी आपको क्या देगा?
Fair point. And let me add, Suhel Seth, it's not just the tenants who haven't got their homes. It's also the PMC investors. People who had their deposits in the PNC bank.
The Vadhavans and the Divans were
the Vadhavans are the company that got this entire contract, and that is who Mr. Raut is accused to be doing business with, because Praveen Raut, the builder under arrest who had transactions with Sanjay Raut, was actually a director on the company of the Vadhavans. So nobody here.
I'm telling you, there is a nexus, Navika. This is not a new nexus. Please. Modi took over in 2014. Are you assuming that before 2014 there was no corruption? There was. But there was no media and there was no ED that was used because everyone believed in quid pro quo. Today, Modi doesn't believe in quid pro quo.
Well, that's not true. Suhel Seth, remember 2010, 2009, when we brought out the 2G spectrum scam and the CWG scam and the Colgate scam and the Antariksh Devas deal. That was times now. There was media even then. But, well, these cases took ever so long and kept staying in files. But I want to get in Dr. Shantanu Sen. It's a very valid point. Today, people who are citizens of India, people who are looking for jobs, what will you answer them? Forget what you have to say to other political parties and the leaders of political parties. What will you say to the people who were looking for jobs and who had to pay bribes of 3 lakhs, 5 lakhs to get a job? And you're the party that picks up the issue of unemployment ever so much. What will you respond to them? What will you say to people who do not have 2 square meals in a day to eat when mounds of cash is found in the associates of your minister's house? Will you go and tell them that for 5 days we didn't take action because we were assessing? Dr. Shantanu Sen, this is beyond politics. This is beyond politics. This is about the conscience and the collective conscience of the nation called India in the 75th year of its independence.
Navika, thanks a ton for keeping the third largest parliamentary party's representative waiting for nearly 30 minutes in your show. I must start by saying that you are undervaluing BJP by comparing with Hitler. And I must give you one example. You are citing some example that how much percentage there was a rise in property of Sanjay Raut. Let me remind you all, from 2014 to 2019, one of our very powerful minister's son's income rose by nearly 15,000 times. I repeat, in 5 years, that minister's son's income rose by 15,000 times. The problem is, ED was constituted in 1956 for some noble causes, with some noble intention. And now the way this ED is being utilized as a political tool, let me cite you some example once again. Searches by ED soared by 26 times in last 8 years. And do you know what was the amount of searches during 2004 to 2014? It was only 112. And now it has become 2,974. And so far this PMLA, that is public money laundering cases, are concerned, out of 5,400 cases, trial was done for only 992, that is 18%. And conviction rate is only 0.46%. If I ask you to go through the chronology, you will understand very well the process of utilizing ED. What about Bharati Ghosh, from whom huge money was recovered? What about the secretary of Dilip Ghosh, the national vice president, whose secretary was caught with huge amount of money? What about Vijay Mallya? What about Nirav Modi? What about Lalit Modi? What about Mehul Chesky? What about the DHFL scam, which was of nearly 34,000 crore? And from there, BJP got a donation of 27 crore. What about the RKW developer, which gave a donation of 10 crore to BJP? What about ABJ CPR scam? What about BAPOM scam? What about former Education Minister, Mr. Pokhriyal ji? Enter BJP is entangled with corruption. The unfortunate part of the story is, this ED is being utilized, this CBI is being utilized against the opposition parties in particular to throttle their voice, to grab the power in those particular states run by non-BJP parties, and to harass them like anything. This is the most unfortunate part of the day. I can give you much more examples, but already I am exhausted by remaining as a silent spectator for nearly 30 minutes.
I'm sorry, but the story really, the latest development was Maharashtra. So I gave the first opportunity to Kishore Tiwari, but this is not part of my arrogance. It was just meant to be, as a journalist, the biggest news of today, and I was going by the dictations of the news. But pardon me, if it's caused you any distress, Dr. Shantanu Sen. But you've raised some important questions. I want Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi to respond to them.
As far as Shantanu Sen ji is concerned, the number of allegations which has tried to put over BJP leaders were always proven false, and even some of them which he was mentioning, I am not repeating those things. It was at the time of UPA, and they are not able to even file a case. And from their fig of imagination, they are trying to put these things as this is corruption, that is corruption, and this and that. But I would like to say, sir, you are the third largest party, but you have become the largest party in terms of showing the corruption, when so much of bundles of rupees had been unearthed by ED. और मजे की बात यह है कि पार्थ चटर्जी ने कहा कि अर्पिता मुखर्जी के घर से मिला पैसा मेरा नहीं है, और ममता बनर्जी जी ने कह दिया पार्थ चटर्जी मेरा नहीं है. मगर इतना कहने मात्र से काम नहीं चलने वाला है. एटलीस्ट इफ समथिंग सब्सटेंटिव शुड हैव कम, देन टीएमसी शुड हैव बीन द लास्ट पार्टी टू पुट एन एलिगेशन व्हेन सो मच ऑफ सो थिंग्स इन विजिबिलिटी हैज कम इन फ्रंट. नाउ कमिंग टू द अदर एस्पेक्ट, अगेन आई एम सेइंग व्हाट सुहेल सेठ जी हैज सेड. अरे भाई, पहले इसलिए केसेस नहीं होते थे कि हम तुम्हारे लिए, तुम हमारे लिए. ऑल पार्टीज वर ज्वाइनिंग हैंड्स टुगेदर. So though nobody was interested in digging up the corruption of the others, but the scenario has changed after Modi ji has come into power. And you look, Navika ji, you look at the change of the instance, the Aam Aadmi Party, which has come in the power with giving so much of tall claims that we will remove corruption. now they are giving cover fire to the corruption. And not only this, as soon as the CBI has started investigation on their liquor policy, they have rolled back. ऐसा तो आपने कभी सुना ही नहीं होगा. अगर पॉलिसी सही थी तो रोल बैक क्यों किया? और मजे की बात ये, जो सबसे ज्यादा जिन्होंने ये वर्ड यूज किया था, सारी संसद चोर है, सारी संसद चोर है शब्द यूज किया था, वो भी साथ में आ गए. तो देयर इज नथिंग बट इट इज द कोरस ऑफ ऑल द करप्ट पीपल who are trying, and they are having one common bonding factor, that is nothing but jealousy and contempt to Shri Narendra Modi. But Narendra Modi ji is committed with a firmness that he is ready to clean up the system, howsoever strong resistance may be. And this is the biggest pain which they are having in their heart.
Well, so let me get in Sanjay Jha. And Sanjay Jha, even before you mention it, apologies to you, because you're the suspended leader representing a party that is the largest opposition party, not the second or the third largest, but the largest opposition party. And I'm coming to you last. Apologies for that. But Sanjay Jha, I want to ask you, is this a competition on who is more arrogant than the other, who is, part of which alliance or the other? Or is this about corruption? Is this about taking away the rights of the citizens? Is this about money that is discovered and money, trunks full of money and gold? I want to ask you, because it seems like pointing fingers at the ED or the government has become the latest fad. Fine, you can question the political intent, but it's not about the political intent at all. It is about corruption, whether a person is corrupt or not, and whether the case can prove that or not. And in the case of Mr. Satyendra Jain, he hasn't got bail yet. I'm still not saying he's convicted, but he's not got bail yet. Partha Chatterjee and his associate, the mounds of cash, is something people are not going to forget in a hurry. And in Sanjay Raut's case, it is the court that has, given a 3-day custody. I want to ask you, Sanjay Raut, why is nobody, and it's a very valid point Suhel Seth made, why is everybody only talking about the fact that usko kyun kiya, isko kyun nahi kiya, BJP mein koi corrupt nahi, alliance mein koi, why are they not talking about the corruption issue, my friend? Because that is the issue people want redressal too.
Okay, Navika, a lot has already been said, so I won't repeat it. I agree with, my colleague here from the Aam Aadmi Party. I think she raised many pertinent points. But let me add to that debate. Firstly, I tell you that when I finish a few bullet points, Sudhanshu Trivedi won't have a place to hide his face. And I raise these questions in bullet points. Everyone here, including my friend Suhel and Sudhanshu, are after Mr. Modi came, India transformed. So I have a few questions to ask for both Suhel Seth and Sudhanshu Trivedi. Who funds Operation Lotus? Question number 2. Suhel mentioned about political campaign finance. Can the BJP tell the people of India today, why are electoral bonds opaque? Why does the people of India not have the right to know India's biggest party with the largest number of members, where does it get the money from to finance its elections and buy out people? Question number 3. Since 2014, central investigating agencies have targeted, I've got the data, 609 political leaders. 93% of them, Navika, 93% of them are people from the opposition. 7% BJP. Number 4. So Vendu Adhikari, Himantu Sharma, they are part of the BJP, Sudhanshu ji. They are not part of Shiv Sena. How come everything that they did suddenly became as pure as running water? Sudhanshu ji, there is an MP from the Bharatiya Janata Party. Unka naam shayad aap unka naam hai Sanjay Patil. Sanjay Patil आपकी सांगली से MP हैं और ये रिकॉर्ड में है, आप गूगल कर लीजिएगा, अभी 2 मिनट में मालूम है. उन्होंने पब्लिकली कहा है, सार्वजनिक तरीके से उन्होंने ऐलान किया कि the ED will not come after me because I'm part of the BJP. There is another leader called Harshvardhan Patil who defected from the BJP. And guess what he said? He said, अब रात को मुझे नींद आएगी क्योंकि ईडी वुडी तो मेरे पीछे नहीं आएगा. No, these are from the horse's mouth. I mean, I can tell you this for a fact, Navika, that this is the most corrupt government in the post-independent history of India. Electoral bonds, crony capitalism. We all know about how one industrialist in this country has grown into the biggest billionaire the world has seen in the shortest period of time. If people think that has happened because of enterprise, zeal, passion, let me tell you, take a deep pause. Let me give you another example, Navika. Everyone who talks about Mr. Modi's government is so clean. 25 to 30% of the people in their cabinet have criminal cases, and I'm talking about serious criminal cases. So what are we talking about here? This is the most hypocritical, fraudulent, two-faced, immoral, unethical, unprincipled government that we have ever seen. And and it's a tragedy. Because I'll tell you what they have unleashed, Navika.
You didn't think Ukhad Diya was fraudulent, hypocritical. You didn't think all of that at that time. But Suhel Seth is coming in. Suhel Seth first and then Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi.
Suhel Seth. I'm kind to Sanjay Jha because he's in suspension all his life with the Congress. Let me counter point by point. Number one, in my entire opening remarks, I did not discuss political funding or political campaign funding. When you quote someone, have the sense to listen to them and quote them. I did not. Number one. Number two, it is your opinion that this government is corrupt. I couldn't be bothered about this government. I talked about the union cabinet. Criminal record versus corruption, which is detailed and delineated, are two different things. Number four, are you wearing blinkers? Are you being more loyal to the king than the king himself? Did the Congress have zero corruption? Are you wanting competition in corruption? What kind of logic do you have here? I thought you were reasonably logical. To then say that you will pin Sudhanshu Trivedi on point-by-point basis, by all means do that. But do not condone the corruption that has been identified. You talked about and you made a veiled reference to Adani, which is what your erstwhile non-suspended time leader continues to say. Please check where the funding for the Congress came from. And I couldn't be bothered where it comes from because it's obviously don't help them. I totally agree with you about transparency on electoral funding. That is not the topic of this debate. When Navika Kumar has a debate on that, we will come and talk about that.
Well, I have a viewer question that just come in before I get in Sudhanshu Trivedi. Ravindra Vatsayan from Ludhiana wants to ask this. Sanjay Jha, his question to you is, are you calling the UPA era the Satyug and the Kalyug has only come after Modi's come? Short answer.
Short answer. Yes, sir. I'll tell you why. The RTI was brought in by the UPA and the UPA brought in the Lokpal Act. Mr. Modi's government did not appoint.
You still hadn't answered the question.
Told you to do so.
So Satyug, so tab Satyug tha. Okay, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, Satyug during UPA, when you had the Colgate, you had the 2G, you had the CWG scams, Antariksh Devas deal, what Satyug tha, ab Kalyug hai. Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, the floor is yours.
Sanjay Jha makes such an effort. Obviously, the Congress don't watch Times Now.
देखिए बिल्कुल सही बात है.
Deputy President of the Congress Party. The amount this man backs for them.
1 minute, gentlemen. Order on the panel. Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi.
नाविका जी, मैं उनकी बात से सहमत हूं. वो भ्रष्टाचारियों के लिए सतयुग था. अब भ्रष्टाचार में डूबे हुए लोगों के लिए वो कलयुग है. चूंकि जब अधर्म बहुत बढ़ जाता तो हमारे यहां कहा गया है परित्राणाय साधूनाम विनाशाय च दुष्कृताम धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे. भगवान किसी न किसी रूप में भेजते हैं. इस समय उन्होंने मोदी जी के रूप में एक ऐसे नेता को भेज दिया कि जिसने भ्रष्टाचारियों के सतयुग को भ्रष्टाचारियों के लिए कलयुग में बदल दिया. और संजय झा जी, अब मैं आपको फैक्चुअल जवाब देता हूं एक दो चीजों का. आपने अभी अडानी का रेफरेंस दिया. आपको बताएं, आज ही लोकसभा में फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर ने बताया है कि राजस्थान की सरकार ने 16 प्रोजेक्ट दिए हैं और बाकायदा कैबिनेट ने प्रस्ताव पारित करके उनको दिया है. एंड यू नो इन विच ईयर ही गॉट द मैक्सिमम इंक्रीज इन हिज वेल्थ? इन 2011. 90% increase in their wealth from the previous years, and he became one of the most important businessmen in the country. You know in which year? He got the Food Corporation of India contract with an assured return for 15 years, 2006 and 7. ऐसा बात करने लगते हैं जैसे 2014 से पहले वो लोग कोई खोमचा लगाते थे और अचानक वो लोग बड़े होने लगे. एटलीस्ट यू इंटेलेक्चुअल पर्सन लाइक यू शुड नॉट लाइक स्पीक लाइक दिस. आई एम नाउ कमिंग टू योर फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन कि कांग्रेस छोड़ के आ गए. नाविका जी, बहुत आश्चर्य लगता है. अ सस्पेंडेड कांग्रेस लीडर इज ट्राइंग टू डिफेंड दैट दोज हु आर डिफेक्टिंग कांग्रेस पार्टी इज बिकॉज ऑफ द बीजेपी. अब ये बताइए, हेमंता विश्व शर्मा से लेके ज्योतिरादित्य सिंधिया से लेके प्रियंका चतुर्वेदी से लेके जो कुछ चल रहा है दक्षिण भारत तक, ये सारे के सारे लोग, ये सब किसके लिए है? बीजेपी की वजह से. ऐसा नहीं है. और आपके यहां इतने सीनियर लीडर कपिल सिब्बल से लेके गुलाम नबी आजाद तक, ये सब बीजेपी. चलिए कोई बात नहीं. अरे जब जब आप पावर से बाहर रहते हैं तब तब आप छूटते. ये बताइए 90s में पावर से बाहर थे. उस जमाने में पवार साहब, एनडी तिवारी, अर्जुन सिंह बीजेपी की वजह से छोड़े थे, मोदी जी की वजह से छोड़े थे. 77 में निजलिंगप्पा, 67 में निजलिंगप्पा, कामराज, मोरारजी देसाई, नीलम संजीव रेड्डी, 77 में देवराज अरस, जगजीवन राम. अरे भाई, जब जब सत्ता छूटती है तब तक कांग्रेस टूटती है. The problem with you is the 60 years because of your inherent structure, your attachment and lust to the power. Because power is the only growing factor. The moment you are out of the power, Congress backs away. I have given example of the 60 years. तब तो मोदी शाह जी तो छोड़िए, बीजेपी भी नहीं थी. इसलिए मैंने कहा कि जब आप फैक्ट सामने रखते हैं तो बहुत सारा एक डिफरेंट पिक्चर उभर के सामने आता है. द प्रॉब्लम इज कांग्रेस इज नॉट रेडी टू एक्सेप्ट द फैक्ट, रादर देन दे आर मोर बिजी इन कवरिंग अप द करप्शन. एंड मोर ओवर दिस, यू हैव गिवन एन एग्जांपल. भाई, पावर में रह के लोग पब्लिक के मनी का करप्शन तो करते हैं, बट यहां तो अपनी पार्टी की पावर में रह के पार्टी के मनी का भी करप्शन हो गया. अब इससे बड़ा एग्जाम्पल तो हेराल्ड केस में जो हुआ है, ऐसा कोई एग्जाम्पल आप अगर इंडिपेंडेंस इंडिया में हुआ हो तो बता दें.
लोन फ्रॉम द कांग्रेस पार्टी, well, it's all waiting to be investigated and proved in a court of law. But ladies and gentlemen, why is it that political parties in power in one state or the other are only taking pot shots at the BJP and the agencies when it comes to these investigations? The question is, not one thought of the citizens of this country, not one thought to the people who are looking for jobs in states like Bengal where allegedly these bribes were paid. Not one thought to those 672 tenants of the Patra Chaul area who are still waiting after 15 years to get their homes reconstructed and redeveloped. No conversation about them. No worry about them. No allegations against any of that. No desire to even find out who took away the rights of these ordinary citizens of India. The only conversation is about why the center and the agencies are going after political individuals. The question is, the PMC bank depositors, they neither can have money for their own treatment if they have a problem in health, or marry their children, or just lead a retired life, because the Vadhavans and the loans from the PMC bank rendered that bank completely bust. Can the opposition parties spare a thought for those people? It would really be nice if they did so, and we here at Times Now will be greatly obliged if they thought about such citizens rather than about their political point scoring. We leave it at that as I thank my panelists. On the other side, the big debate on Smriti Irani and what the court has said about the so-called defamatory statements made by the Congress. Has the Congress made it a habit to jump to conclusions without reason, without proof? Do they shoot first and then ask questions? Well, the BJP definitely feels so tonight. And they are armed with this order from the Delhi High Court, which calls the charges leveled by the Congress against Union Minister Smriti Irani and her daughter as prima facie bogus and slanderous. The order in no uncertain terms makes it clear that Smriti Irani's daughter never applied for a license either for a bar or a restaurant, and the allegations by the Congress lack proof. Now let me refresh your memory, ladies and gentlemen. Congress leaders Jairam Ramesh, Pawan Khera and Netta D'Souza were among those who were asked to delete their posts against Smriti Irani's daughter last week by the Delhi High Court. They had accused her of using the union minister's clout to apply for a license and illegally run a bar in Goa. All that has been quashed by the court on account of the Congress leaders failing to substantiate their allegations. That really raises questions about why, for political point scoring, children of leaders being dragged into the political slugfest. It's a question we need to think about. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on the NewsHour tonight.